I got my coffee too.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning. It is Saturday, December 9th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard
It's
Time. Welcome to another live stream on Code Noobs, the best Facebook group for coding in the entire world.
damn right.
That's right. Welcome, guys. So glad that you joined us again and or that you're watching this in the future. The future.
Future.
Nice to see you, Randall and Danny. Good morning. Good morning. You guys have your coffee this morning?
Yeah,
I
I
do.
can't function without it.
I know.
Yep.
Well, welcome. Today's topic is will AI developers, sorry, will AI make developers obsolete? I know. I'm losing it, guys. I'm losing it.
Well, AI
Uh,
developers.
Yeah.
yeah, before we get started, everybody who's watching, let us know down in the comments what you think. Will AI
Yeah.
make developers obsolete? Has it
Are you
already happened?
scared for
Or
your
if it's
job?
going to happen, how soon?
Yeah. What do you guys think? What's your take on it? It's your
I think.
immediate gut
Oh,
visceral gut reaction. Go ahead, Danny.
I mean, I don't think it's going to make. I think you're always going to need people for creativity and for problem solving. But I think a lot. We saw this like there was when ChatGPT was first like released to the public, and there was like you saw all these other companies starting to like produce AI stuff. There was a push initially where like there was this idea for a lot of companies where they thought they could get rid of like a lot of junior developers because you could have the AI write basically boilerplate code.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it doesn't seem like that worked out like they thought it would, because I
Yeah.
think, it's very useful, but like at least right now, I don't think there's much danger. But, going forward, that's always going to be a concern, right? I think that will be as we move forward in the future and things do improve and get better and get faster.
Yeah. Could agree
Yeah,
with that.
so
What about you,
yeah,
Randall?
so I thought I've read a couple of books on AI. And so a few years back, I read this book called You Look Like a Thing and I Love You, which was basically where they gave a language learning model all of the top pickup lines, and that was what it created, the best pickup line possible. You look like a thing, and I love you. And
You look like a thing, and I love you.
Pretty
I've
sweet.
tried that a whole
Pick
bunch.
up
It
line.
doesn't seem to work. But
Really?
yeah,
Can't
doesn't
imagine
seem to work.
why.
Yeah, but so like what I got from that book was the notion that a general AI just we're not even close. But
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
just recently read Musk's new biography,
Hmm.
and he seems to think that it's pretty darn close, especially with like what Tesla can do with imaging video and with what he can gather from Twitter and the audio models. And the crazy thing is that he was one of the guys who created OpenAI,
Hmm.
which is ChatGPT. And so while I think it's getting closer, I agree 100% with what Danny said, is that we're not there yet. Like it's
Yeah.
close, it's helpful. Like ChatGPT, super helpful when you're coding, but does it get it 100% right? No. Is it able to
Yeah.
write code by itself? No. So like
Yeah. Why don't
close,
Well,
but
you?
not
that's
there yet.
that's the thing too. Anybody that's used it right now, like if you use it when you're coding or something, or you're trying to create something, like I would say 99.9% of the time, one prompt's not enough. You have to keep refining. And like, when they get to the point where like you can write one prompt and get the boilerplate or get what you need, that's maybe different. But there's another thing too, where like I know I was reading about this a few months ago. Um, Researchers at MIT were creating a system. I forget it might have been called like can't remember what they called it, like liquid or something in the title of the machine learning. And like the idea is that like it can learn from its prompts, from its responses, and can currently like it can learn with like the internet and stuff, like as it's doing stuff, it's learning instead of like the models now where like you train it, then you put it out there. And then if you want it to have new stuff, you have to retrain it on new material, right?
Yeah.
So if it's consistently learning over time, that might change things too if they
Yeah.
get there. But that's
I
still also
sort of
far
agree
away.
with that, but I also think there's like a danger where if you have AI models that can learn from their own prompts and from their own answers, and then from the internet, and they're publishing answers on the internet, you sort of get this cycle of like AI just learning off of other junk AI answers. And then it
Yeah.
almost seems to me like it would like degrade the quality of the AI instead of improving it. Because like,
It's like inbreeding.
yeah, yeah, for real. Like you
Well,
were
I
talking
think
about general AI, Randall, and like that's sort of like what humans have, right? Where we're able to take all these different experiences that we've had in our life and make creative new answers to things that aren't just like based on something that, we can sort of like manipulate all this information that we have in our head to create a new answer. Whereas AI is just sort of, like you said with that book, it's the reason you get an answer like that, like you're a thing and I love you, is because it's just taking sort of the most popular words um from a pickup line and just smashing them together and saying this is the best one, right? There's no creativity in it, is what
Well,
I'm trying.
that's the funny thing too, is like, we don't always know what we're going to get from it either. Like people
Yeah.
start out with these ideas. Like there was a great example of like, there's this like game online where you drive a boat or something, and like I never played it, but like there was a research paper about it where these researchers were making an AI to beat that game, to do the best they could. And
Mhm.
so they trained it on the game and played it like I forget how many fucking thousands of times or whatever.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. But like it ended up doing this thing where it took its boat into like this little bay area and just smashed things up, because what they didn't realize was you gained points for that, and the game awarded points more than it did winning like the race. So it found a way to win, but it like
Yeah.
wasn't what they expected. They wanted to win the race, but we have to program. That's all like stuff you have to do at the front part when you're building it. It's not like,
Yeah.
so the expectations too, I think we're not there yet in knowing exactly what these things are going to do, and like having it that, I think targeted to like be able to create stuff the correct way or the way we want or intend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think they're saying like, OpenAI has come out and said we have this like new thing that's like Q Star, which they haven't released yet, but it's supposedly like this sort of general AI or getting closer to it. So we may be closer to that, but I still don't feel like that's going to just take over developers' jobs, because there's a lot of things in development that like need human interaction. Like AI models aren't going to be the ones using software. And so I don't think they're ever going to really get to a point where they're going to fully understand how a human would be using it. And thus they can't really necessarily code for that. I don't know. That's sort of my thought on it. And I think
Yeah.
also we forget, I mean, Danny, you and I were doing some coding earlier this week with Next.js. And I was explaining to you, I was like, don't even bother trying to use ChatGPT because it's too far behind. Like Next.js is, you know,
Just updated in October, actually, it
yeah,
was.
it just updated a few months ago and ChatGPT is like well behind that. So I think that's the other thing too, where like having like normal coding skills and being able to look at documentation and find, solutions on your own will always keep us as human developers a little bit ahead of AI because they're always going to be behind.
You actually just reminded me too. That was one of the issues these companies found too, was like when they were trying to use AI, was that, you know, you have to understand code to also verify that what it's giving back to you is actually correct,
It's
or to
really
even
hard.
write the prompts to get the correct answer if
Yeah.
it's not right. So like if you don't understand what you're looking at, you're no use anyway. So you
Yeah.
still need people that understand it. And I think to your point too,
Absolutely.
like we're creating, regardless of how fat or how far AI goes, there's always going to be a need for developers, I think, too, because like think of all the small businesses and stuff that still need software.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't know exactly how to describe what they need. You have to meet with them, you have to talk. So they wouldn't be able to get anything done if they were relying on something like that, where, if they don't even know how to begin, AI is
Yeah.
useless.
Yeah,
Also,
you gotta. Oh,
I was gonna say also, what I think a lot of people forget is on the other side of that, when you talk about enterprise level companies, they don't want you just throwing their code into ChatGPT, right? Because it's like a security risk for them. Like if like ChatGPT collects that information, right? So they don't let developers just like go and copy whole files and just drop them into ChatGPT and be like, what's wrong with this?
Yeah, and they
actually,
totally are.
it's great that you mentioned that because right now, on Try Hack Me, which is a great site for learning cybersecurity, they have the advent of Christmas or something like that. Advent, it's some holiday themed thing for the month of December, 25 days of
Oh, like
December.
an advent
But the
calendar.
first,
Yeah.
yeah, the first day is how to hack AI.
Yeah.
So, and it's free to sign up for. So anybody who's interested in
That's
learning how
pretty
to
cool.
do that, go check out tryhackme.com.
Yeah. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Oh,
think
there was something else that I wanted to say
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of what Danny was mentioning with AI. So like I kind of reckon it back to towards like earlier times with the internet, with technology, things like that, because people thought, oh, these computers, this internet, this is going to revolutionize life. It's going to take over all these jobs. Everybody's going to be unemployed. And they literally thought that people would be working less than 14 hours per week because
Yeah.
computers would take over everything else and there would be nothing for people to do. And
Yeah.
you see the same kind of themes
And it
going on
made
with
more
AI where they're
work.
like, they're going to take, yeah, they're like, it's going to take over everything that people do. Nobody's going to be able to do everything. And Elon Musk in his book talks about this. He's like, once we have robots, humanoid robots with general AI, they can do all the work, and we can be living off of universal basic income because they'll be doing the stuff that earns money, and you won't have to pay them, and we'll just get the income, and we can choose to work if we want to. So maybe that's possible, but I kind of think we're probably going to be working even more. Instead of 80 hours a week, it's going to be like 110.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you make a good point too, right? If you want to be sort of ahead of your field as a developer, it makes sense to learn how AI works, not just like how to code AI, but like how to implement AI as a developer, because it can make your job easier. Like I think there will be a change in like what we consider developers where yeah, you won't be doing mundane tasks of writing out, boring code. You can actually just use AI for this like boring things, but then the larger scale things like when you're building data structures and formulating how an app is going to work or how a piece of software is going to work, I don't think AI is really going to be able to tackle all of that, especially because 90% of coding is just sitting in a meeting and talking to people because that's what it's about, right? It's
Trying
about
to agree upon. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
and so AI is not capable of necessarily doing that. They can write the code, but you need somebody who understands like how the internet works, how to develop, the architecture of an app and then put that into place. And then you can use AI to say, create the content or create the actual code or the simple code, right? Because there's different levels of code, I think, too. But yeah.
yeah. I know I was gonna say just to your point too, I think like, as developers, it's crucial that we understand it, use it, that we, so we know how it works. But we should also, I think, understanding too how to code it is a little important. Not necessarily that you code AI or large language
Yeah.
models or train them, but just to understand how they work so you understand their limitations too. Because
Yeah.
like as the future goes forward, like we might get to a point, like it'd be cool if we got to a point where like, you're gonna create like, I don't know, like a React web app and you can get AI to create like the boilerplate for a bunch of it. So you don't have to do that low level stuff. And then you work on the problems, the design, stuff like that, that's like more higher level, that requires more creativity.
Yeah. And I think we're still pretty far away from, having an AI that can do all of those things or encompass everything that it would take. Like you can ask AI for like a code snippet and get a part of an app, but it's really difficult to say like, hey, design me this whole thing and make all the parts work together. It's just there's just not we're not there yet. I mean, we may be there in not that long because it's advancing quickly, but I think there's always going to be a spot for developers. And you have to understand basically like what you said is you have to understand what AI is doing and understand the code that it's putting out to make sure that we're not just like throwing junk into junk and then all of a sudden we're getting degenerate AI where it's like creating worse quality answers.
Mhm. Also, uh, I this is speculation, but I think also some of the fears around AI replacing developers is just because of the timing when it came out. Like you saw ChatGPT became very popular, and then there was Copilot and all this other stuff. At the same time, we had mass layoffs from market decline. Also, Twitter taking over new ownership and just getting rid of like bloated amount of developers and a bunch of other stuff. So like I think because they both occurred simultaneously, it's easy to think, oh no, AI took over all these jobs. But that's not what
Yeah.
happened. It was just like these companies were just bloated. They hired developers they didn't need, and then
Yeah.
they got new management and they want to get better developers.
Well, in Facebook's case, they were hemorrhaging money on
Yeah.
the metaverse that still hasn't done anything, so that nobody uses.
Oh, it's there. It's there. Just nobody uses it. So
Yo,
I have a
listen, if you
question.
want, you can go to Target on your on your VR machine and you can put everything in a cart and then you can just go drive there and pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In and keep the headset on while you drive there.
right. Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't do that.
I know.
So my question is to you guys, how, if somebody in the group is like, let's say watching this right now, how would you sort of differentiate yourself so that you could be, stay ahead of the evolving AI future here where there is potential for AI to take over at least some of the jobs or, the more mundane tasks. Like if you're a junior developer, what are you going to
I
do to sort of differentiate yourself?
I think that's also one of the fears too. Why if anybody does have these comments, but I think that's one of the fears too is that, if it does, if it gets to the point, and it seems like, we're getting there where it can spit out like the boilerplate and all that and do what a junior developer does. One of the issues with that though is then that takes away jobs where people learn.
Yeah.
And so you then create this gap between like, the junior and the, intermediate developer. And it's, we need people to train to do that too and to get that experience. So we also
Yeah.
run into this problem where like I think even if that does happen, I don't know how long it would last because companies would realize that at some point that, oh, we need people that also understand our stuff. Because at the end of the day, they need people that understand their software to continually maintain it, update it, and, make changes to it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Um,
I think learning to integrate, learning to use AI to code is
yeah.
exceptionally important because you'll be able to code so much more quickly than everyone else. And
Mhm.
even though it may like a lot of people in technology who use AI already, it may seem like everybody uses AI, but for the most part, in the general population, people don't.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it's shocking that like they'll be doing stuff that takes so freaking long, and you can just craft the prompt and have it done in 2 minutes. And so like
Yeah.
if you're able to learn that stuff and show that to them, you'll be that much more valuable because all of a sudden it's like you're performing magic.
Yeah.
Well, to your point too, I mean, I've literally worked on projects where like ChatGPT made it, I mean, it decreased my work time by significantly because I didn't have to look up everything. I didn't have to go to like documentation for everything or for this whenever I had a, question or trying to figure something out. It's like, that takes a lot of time. So if you do how to learn how to use it effectively, it speeds up everything. Like especially like the stuff where you're, especially like stuff where you're kind of sure what you need to do, but not quite sure. And like it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. I have 2 points to make. One is I have a
Oh, we had
se-
a comment too. Somebody else said that, yeah, junior developer and like she says she uses AI every day, but like most people don't. I
yeah,
think that's true. Yeah, a lot of people don't. So it does differentiate you from everybody else.
totally. Yeah, like I have a senior developer friend who I worked with at a company a while ago, and he's like very senior. Like he started .NET when like .NET started. He's he's been here for a while, and I was talking to him like a month ago, and he's just built like this new web app for email marketing, and he was like, I love AI because he's like, it's made my time to actually develop stuff cut in half or more, right? And it's not that he can just go in there and say, hey, develop this whole thing, but he knows how to prompt it correctly so that he gets what he wants, right? And so, as a developer, understanding how to craft prompts to get the code that you want, I think is very important because you need to understand how it works sort of on the backside or like how to actually get what you need out of it. And I think that's one of the issues that people have is that they're sort of scared of it. Like, this is like sort of the second thing I was going to say is the company I work for now. About a month after I started working there, I was like showing the CEO how to use ChatGPT, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Like he's never really like played with it before, understood how it works or the possibilities of it. And he's like, this is amazing. We need to do a meeting where you just show everybody how to use ChatGPT because he just loves meetings. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And this was what I thought was really interesting. So I did a call where I like sort of showed people how to craft a prompt because it is as easy as just being like, write this. Like you can almost Google search it, like do a Google search prompt and throw it in there and get something decent. But if you know how to like really craft it, you can get so much more out of it. Like ask it for the tone, tell it like its role, things like that, enhance what you get out of it, the output. But what I thought was really interesting is at the end of it, he was like, I want everyone in the company to think of like different ways that they can use this. And then I was like, yeah, you can just prompt ChatGPT to do that for you. And then he was like, no, 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 no. We don't need to chat GPT like everything. Like, and he got really scared because he was like, he thought, it would take the sort of human aspect out of the company. And I just thought that was funny because there's clearly like a big fear for people around these products because they don't fully understand what's happening. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
No, no, I was gonna say, speaking of that, actually, somebody commented too. Chris said, he said his fear was like that he would lean on ChatGPT too much.
Yeah.
When coding, he said he just literally started using it today though,
Oh,
and
nice.
obviously found it beneficial. But like, this I think is a fear people have too. Like you were saying with your boss, right? We're like, oh no, everybody's just gonna be entering stuff into ChatGPT. Nobody's gonna be really
Yeah.
doing anything on their own. It's like, but if you think about it, one, you have to make the prompt. So you still have to come
Yeah.
up with an idea. You still have to, there's still a human element to it. And I think for like, especially with like junior developers, and I will say this, like for myself too, it's helped so much for me learning too, because I think you can do things with ChatGPT that like a lot of people don't think. Like, not only can you ask it to help you with a problem, but you can say, explain why you said
Yeah.
that, or expand on that, or, can you give me more examples? And actually doing that, you'll learn actually a lot moving forward that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. And I think it's really valuable in that sense too.
I've
Yeah.
done that. I've done that with some code samples. Like sometimes I'll be looking through some scripts and I have no idea what it's doing. And I'll
Yeah.
just say like describe to me line by line what this script is doing. And that's a great way to learn because then you can see, oh, this is doing that, that's doing that, this connects back to that. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I was, I wanted to add another comment, which I thought was kind of funny. And this happened to me. I developed like a web app a little while ago called Cover Better, and it just generates like cover letters for you, right? And somebody like a while ago on Reddit, I was like looking for beta testers and somebody tried it and they're like, "Oh my God, I want to like white label this and use it for my company or something like that." And then I started talking to them and they were a developer themselves and they were like, "What model did you use?" I'm like, "It just uses Chat GPT in the background. It's nothing crazy." And he was like mind blown because he's like, "I've been trying to do this forever using Chat GPT, but I can't get anything close to the quality of like the output that you're getting from this." And I was like, yeah, well, that's just prompt engineering. Like that's literally what it is. It's understanding how to give it the information that it needs to create these good prompts or these good outputs. And he was like, "Can I pay you? Can I have the prompt?" And I was like, "No, dude, that's like the secret sauce. Like that is the
Yeah.
reason why people pay to use this because I put a lot into that prompt. And yeah, like I developed the whole thing too, but that is what that is what people pay for. That's why they don't just go to ChatGPT and do that because you make it easier. And that's another thing too, is like ChatGPT has an API, right? So you can implement that as a developer into other things, right? And use AI to make better software.
But to your point though, like in order to do that effectively, you have to write really careful prompts. You
Mhm.
have to read the documentation. You have to,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of testing to make sure you're getting back what you want correctly. And I
Yeah.
think this is like, this is what makes it really, I think, both valuable, but also I think why a lot of people also struggle with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Rachel wrote exactly same here. It automates the boring tastes, but I think she meant tasks I never want to do, like helping me write cover letters and resumes or researching the history of a tech company like OpenAI. Yeah, so really I think what it comes down to is AI is not really going to take over our roles or our jobs as a developer, but it can make you a much better developer in a much shorter amount of time. And that really comes down to understanding how it works, how to use it, and how to like really get good outputs so that you can advance ahead. And that's the, I think if anything, it's a benefit, right? Like it's sort of weird. We all took a boot camp, and I think it was like, I don't know, like a couple like weeks after we graduated that OpenAI, or even while we were in the boot camp, that OpenAI like came out. I don't know when it came out. It
No,
was a
I
very
think it was
yeah,
afterwards, dude. Yeah, it
yeah,
was like it was a few months after. Yeah.
yeah. And you know, it was like to me, it was like the best gift we ever got as a developer, because before that, we had to do so much in terms of like reading documentation, and a lot of times documentation really sucks. Like we were talking about this
Yeah.
the other day, like React Router DOM, like the documentation for that is horrible, horrible. It's probably the worst I've ever seen, but
Yeah.
it's necessary for any React app. You have to
What
understand how to use it. And so you can use ChatGPT to like answer those questions for you.
And on top of that, too, I think before ChatGPT, and especially before it got even better with like 3.5 and all and 4, you know, not only was the documentation sometimes difficult to understand because it's not written well, but also on top of that, I think like you would Google for answers, you'd search online for answers and you get like these
Junk.
stupid, terrible
Yeah.
junk on Slack and stuff, and like stuff that doesn't make any sense, that doesn't
Yeah.
help at all because, it's people are, all their developers are in the same position. They're trying to use the stuff, but the documentation sucks. So it's hard to figure out what you're supposed
Yeah.
to do with it.
I always found that so frustrating using Stack Overflow because you get 50 people who answer it, but they're all wrong or they're
Yeah.
all outdated. Like you'll
Oh,
find,
Stack Overflow. That's what I was thinking of.
yeah,
Sorry.
Stack Overflow. Yeah. And you'll find answers where it's like, yeah, this answer was put up there maybe 10 years ago. And that's the best answer that you can find.
Yeah.
So there's just so much power in being able to use AI effectively. Were you going to say
What?
something? No.
Oh,
Oh,
no, I was going to say, I think that's just it. I think like, as developers, if you're learning now, like you should know how to use it. You should definitely use it. You should definitely incorporate it, whether you're going to use the API or not, like incorporate it into projects. Also, I would look into that too, just because looking into the documentation for the API on ChatGPT, actually their documentation is pretty good. One.
yeah, it's
Two, it
great.
actually helps you write better prompts because you'll understand how it works in the background, and that gives you a better understanding of how to like craft your prompts and when you're interacting with it through the, user interface.
Yeah, that's how I did it when I actually crafted that prompt. Is their documentation is great. They show you exactly how to like formulate a prompt so that you get what you want out of it. And that's,
I think they give it to you in different languages too, don't they? Like they actually show you in different like
yeah,
programming languages how to interact with the API too. It's really helpful. Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome. So if you guys haven't looked at that, it's a great resource. Just look at their API documentation from ChatGPT.
Or you could prompt ChatGPT
Or
to
its API
explain the
documentation.
API documentation to you
To do that as well. Yes.
into the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're getting to 30 minutes here. I'd love to know how everybody here who's watching today is using ChatGPT or any AI for that matter. There are other ones out there like Google Bard, and Gemini is coming out soon, apparently. So we'll see how that changes things. But yeah, I'd love to learn how you guys are doing that. And there's a few other comments here that Paula says that's why mentorship is priceless. Absolutely. And we will offer mentorship in the near future. We're actually building our website so you guys can start joining us for some one-on-one or group mentorship. I think we're going to do that after these calls every Saturday. We'll do some group mentoring, and then we'll have one-on-one if you want to work with, one of us or multiple of us one-on-one. So you get a little bit more hands-on help with things like this and any other coding that you guys are doing. Also, I think Chris said he is doing self-learning with Free Code Camp and a bunch of online resources. Always a great way to start.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. Absolutely. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know how you're using AI and how it's changed you as a developer and what you think about, will this change our lives as developers heading into the future? You guys have any parting words for everybody? No.
I'll
Awesome.
be back.
I'll be back. We'll be back next Saturday at 9 a.m. every Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another one of these. if you'd like to hear about a certain topic too, let us know. We're always open to hearing what you guys want to hear about. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and happy Saturday.
Have a good one, guys.
Guys.